Thank you. Is it orange rain? Look at rain. Oh.
I know one. My fiction. So good. Like was so good. They wanted to on fire my work today.
Yeah.
Wait, no. I'm like a wonder if I'm like what it is.
There goes.
They're driving that.
And you'll be.
With
Sure. Sure. Going to get started. I don't think we have Chair Johnson or maybe the Vice Chair online, so I'm just going to kick us off and call the roll for the Ward 4 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting Thursday, November 20th. We'll start Chair Johnson. Absent this time. Kelly Orr. Just 1 second. Kelly and Rebecca both. I just promoted both of you. I want to shoot the
Hi, thank you. I'm here. Sorry about that.
Great. I'm gonna turn the volume up a little bit. Why? All right. Kelly Orr is present. Kelsey Meno.
present.
Jared Salner. Present. Gloria Luck. Absent this time. Rebecca Flannery.
Rebecca Flannery here.
Rebecca. Ernst. Lucian. Larissa.
Present.
John White, just on. Probably be right back. Trent Kelly. Present. Great. We do have a quorum of the Ward 4 Neighborhood Advisory Board. Kelly, I don't know if you are comfortable doing the vice chair duties on Zoom, or I can run us through the meeting, whichever you prefer.
I think you're able to open up my paperwork, so I would love some assistance.
Happy to assist. I'll just run through some of the admin portions of the meeting. We'll go ahead and get started with our opening. Oh, no, we'll start with pledge. Only for that. Jared, why don't you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
God
of
of
the
the
United States
States of America,
and to
to
the
the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God,
indivisible, with
liberty
liberty
and justice for all.
Much everyone. Member John White is present. Now we'll go ahead and start public comment. Item 8. I don't have anyone in the room who's registered to give public comment. If there's anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment on today's agenda, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window to let you know you'd like to speak. While we're waiting for them, speaker can be limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments may relate to items both on and off the agenda. I don't see anyone who's raised their hand online. Just double checking, no one in the room wants to give opening public comment. Well, okay. There'll be an opportunity for public comment on each item at the end. So seeing no public comment, Madam Vice Chair, we're ready to move on to item A3, which is approval of the agenda. I do want to note for the board members and the public that all of the development items B1, B2, and B3 are coming off of this agenda. All of the applicants have requested to come back to a future Ward 4 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting. So they will be back before this board. They're just going to be here tonight. And that leaves our only other item as our RTC presentation. We do have Paul Wilson here, but if I can get a motion to approve the agenda, that was Alex. I appreciate it.
Jared Salvin for the record. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting as it modified.
Thanks,
John
Jared.
White, second.
Thanks, John, for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
I
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move on to item A4, which is approval of the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes from August 21st, September 18th, and October 16th. We can take one motion on all 3 unless anyone has questions or edits to specific meetings. Hearing no edits, if I can get a motion to approve all 3.
Where's the meeting for the record? I motion to approve the minutes of all three meetings.
Thanks, Larissa. Is there a second?
Kelly or I second.
Ellie Orr for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All three sets of minutes are approved. Don't think we have Councilmember Ebert here just yet, so we'll hold off on item C5 and we'll bring it back up at the end of the meeting just in case. Or I'm sorry, A5, not C5. My bad, everyone. So we'll skip A5 and move straight to A6, which is the staff liaison report. My name is Tyler Shaw. I'm the general manager of the city of Reno. We have with me Gray Anderson. She's our new intern for the city of Reno. And we do have Councilmember Ebert present for the record. I have a very short update for all of you. Normally Callie's here, Callie's shy, but she's running the planning commission meeting tonight. So you got me instead, but I've got a very short update for all of you. Our next meeting is on December 18th at 6 p.m. of this board. It'll be in the same place. And we do have 2 council meetings coming up in December. They're in irregular dates, and I wanted to give everyone the dates because of the holidays, things are moving around a little. So we have a council meeting on December 3rd.
We did have a council meeting on Wednesday. Discussed potential noise ordinances. It was just discussion for staff to go back and kind of think about how we could incorporate new rules into our noise ordinance or see if we should be monitoring sound at different levels. So there will be more to come on that. I requested that we include warehouse noise in this noise ordinance because of the amount of warehouses going into residential neighborhoods. I think that was probably the big thing for this Wednesday. But coming up, there is the Reno Aces are having a holiday event pre-loading ceremony. I think it starts December 4th and goes through, I want to say the 13th, where they're having fireworks and drone shows at the Aces Stadium on the weekend. And also on December 13th, we're doing the Santa fly-in into this airport. So it's an event for kids. There's going to be like refreshments and crafts, arts and crafts for kids to do, and opportunity to meet Santa. So anybody has little kids or wants to nieces and nephews or that kind of thing, that is happens at 10 a.m. on Saturday, December 13th. For now.
If we have more at the end, we'll come back, but thank you very much, Councilmember Ebert. As I mentioned during approval of the agenda, our 3 development projects have requested to come back to a future now. So we're going to go straight to item C1, which is a presentation from the Regional Transportation Commissioner of Washoe County. We have Paul Nelson here. In 1 second, pull up the slides. It should be.
What could I?
No, that one doesn't work. Just project. The microphone's right next to you, so everyone on Zoom should be able to hear you. Perfect. And then try clicking and see if anything happens. I think there's just a little bit of a delay. So
Okay.
you'll have to click and give it just a second, but take it away, Paul.
All right. My name is Paul Nelson. I'm the Government Affairs Officer for RTC Washoe. I always enjoy coming out and talking to you guys about some of the investments that we're making in your communities. So I'll give you guys an overview of the things we're doing with transit, planning, and engineering. So we'll get started with the public transportation. One of the things we're really proud of right now is we're on a winning streak when it comes to our growth. We've got at least 37 straight months of ridership growth. We think it's actually probably 38, but we're updating our software, so we don't have the latest numbers from the most previous month. But we're pretty confident that we're at 38 straight months of ridership growth. upwards of 6 million trips in the last 12 months. So it's getting caught back up, not quite to where we were pre-COVID ridership, but we're going up and we're really happy about that. 60% work trips. So it's really important for people that are trying to get to and from work. The bus fleet that we have are, it's completely 100% sustainable, all electric, diesel hybrid, and hydrogen fuel cell. One nice thing that I will point out is we just found out from the FTA that we are receiving $21.5 million to purchase 19 new diesel hybrids. So that will allow us to retire our electric buses that only get about 90 miles of range. And we're having problems keeping them running because the company that built them is bankrupt. So when parts break down, you can't get new parts. So we're able to retire those buses early and replace them with some brand new ones. Nice thing about that grant is we're only on the hook for about 5 million of the purchase price for 19 buses. So we're really happy about that. We're also looking forward to getting those hydrogen fuel cell buses in operating. Our permanent fueling facility is pretty well set. We're just making sure that everything is ready to go before we put those on the roads. So our bus rapid transit, these are our two busiest routes, the Virginia line and the Lincoln line. You can see how popular they are, 1 million rides in the last 12 months on the Virginia line, more than 450,000 rides for the Lincoln line, which goes Prater and 4th Street. The nice thing about those is they operate, the frequency is good. So about every 10 minutes, you'll have a bus stopping to pick you up. If you look at those two routes alone, it's right around 22-23% of our bus ridership. We've got 20 routes. So you can see how important these two routes are for us. Our microtransit is FlexRide. I've talked to you guys about this before, where we've got the bubbles right there. This is our North Valley FlexRide. We've got 4 of them. One of them is in South Meadows, one of them is in Spanish Springs Sparks, and the other one is Somerset Verdi. So you can call kind of like an Uber or Lyft, and it'll pick you up and take you anywhere within these bubbles. So if you want to go farther than that, they'll take you to the nearest bus stop, and then you can be on your way. The nice thing about this is it's $2 per ride, whereas $3 for a day pass. So it's a lot more reasonably priced than Ubers and Lyfts and taxis. A couple of programs we've got, the Senior Taxi Bucks program and the Van Pool program. The Taxi Bucks, I just talked to a bunch of seniors today about this, and they're very interested in it. It's a card they get that auto loads $60 every month, and they either use it or they don't use it. At the end of the month, they get a new $60, but it doesn't roll over. It's only $60, so you can only get a few rides out of it, but they could be very valuable for our seniors that need to get to the grocery store, doctor's appointments, or the pharmacy, or what have you. The Van Pool program is really popular out in this area. There's a lot of people out here that work out at Trick. They also work out in Susanville, Truckee, Tahoe, Carson City. So if you get enough people together, you can form a van pool. We subsidize it. Enterprise will provide the vehicle, and it makes it very affordable for the driver to lease one of these vehicles. You can have anywhere from 5 to 15 people in a van pool. Last year, this program saved 20 million miles traveled in our region. So really important for congestion, especially out in this area. Fewer cars is better. And also it takes some of the air pollution out. Some of the future riders we're talking about. So we have 2 programs, our EdPath program. We've been doing this for a long time, and it's growing a lot in popularity with the university students. So anyone that works at the university or is a student at the university can ride our buses for free. Any time of the day, any route. It doesn't matter if it's school related or not. So that's a very popular program. We serve all 4 of our local colleges. So UNR, TMCC, DRI, and WNC. And then our Youth Ride Free, we just started this summer. And we're already seeing a lot of success for this. One of the reasons that we partnered with the Washington County School District for this program was to provide free transit for students to hopefully cut back on tardiness and absenteeism. We also know that it's very valuable for people if they've got extracurricular activities, if they've got summer programs that they want to go to, and other services. But what we're finding now with the statistics, we've got about 2,300 students that are signed up for this, almost 1,000 trips per day, and I think around 400 on the weekends. what we're finding is that jobs are actually the things that most students are taking them for. So we're seeing a lot of success for this, and we're going to find out in the coming months if this is something that's been successful enough to where we can continue it. So planning is one of the other legs of our three-legged stool. So the RTP, we just updated our 2050 plan that was approved back in February by our board. This is our Bible, basically. Everything that we do, every project we do, it starts here. So this looks out 20 years. For us, we're actually 25 years out. So we're looking at what we want the community to look like when it comes to transportation in the next 20, 25 years. We went out to the public, we asked what they wanted, and got a lot of positive feedback, and we included that into this program. So when we come down to doing our projects, we can implement them. It's either Reno or Sparks, Washoe County, or NDOT can take this and put those into their public works. So one of the things that we just started recently was our neighborhood network plans. I think I've talked to you guys about this before, where we broke the region up into 12 different neighborhoods, and we're looking at each neighborhood and really looking at where we can make improvements for pedestrians and for cyclists. You know, those short trips where people can either walk to the park or the school or the grocery store or ride their bikes, and ways that we can make it safer in the process. So we already did the plans for number 9 and number 7. So Central Reno, Central Sparks. Now we're in the implementation phase of those two. At the same time, we're doing the planning for the next 2 neighborhoods, and that's neighborhood 10 and neighborhood 2. So neighborhood 2, that's Panther Valley and Sun Valley. So we're doing 2 per year and kind of simultaneously doing the planning for one and the implementation on the other one. I should say 2 and 2. So some of the things that we look at are, I'll show you on the next slides actually. We call them quick builds. So these are relatively inexpensive ways that we can make improvements right now. So some of the things that we can do are we can do these bulb outs right here at these intersections to protect the pedestrians as they're getting ready to cross the street. We've got the center refuge islands that people, if they're crossing a street and there's a lot of traffic, they can stop in the median and wait till traffic clears before they can go. These little makeshift roundabouts, those are easy ways that we can slow down traffic at certain intersections. Bike paths, obviously. And this is one that we're not really looking at too much here, but this is an area in Southern California where they took a street and they actually closed it down and made it more of a community courtyard type area where people can go and have street fairs and things like that. Another thing that we have is a lot of different varieties for bike lanes. So you can see we've got the dividers here, the bollards, got a concrete curb dividing this bike lane. The armadillos right there are, they don't look like much, but drivers don't like it when they hit them. It hurts. So they actually do a good job of protecting cyclists. You've got the concrete barriers here. These are bike parking areas that, you know, they decorated a little bit with planters. And then obviously you've got the painted bike lanes there on the right. So these are things that we're looking at in those first 2 neighborhoods that I mentioned. And then we're also studying those other 2 areas right now to find out what kind of treatments we can do with those. So when it comes to engineering, the investments that we've made throughout the Truckee Meadows just last year provided 2,700 construction jobs. So not only is our investments paying off in terms of making things better for the traveling public, but also it's providing much needed jobs for people. Somebody worked it out and it comes out to, like, for every $1 million we spend, that equals 10 jobs. So we've got $80 million projects. So you figure that's 80 jobs right there. So, you know, give or take. So our investments, we know, are very important for people to stay employed. So one of the things that we do, our 2025 pavement preservation program, is we've got 3 ways of doing it. Preventive maintenance, that's the cheapest way that we do things, where we'll do crack seals, patching, and slurry seals. That's what these pictures are, where you can see the work we did. Then we put the slurry seal, restripes, and it really keeps our good roads good. Next one is corrective maintenance, where we take the top layer of pavement off, we put a new layer down, restripe. And then rehabilitation is when our roads are really at the end of their useful life, but the materials are still good, so we can recycle those materials, put new pavement on, and then we're good to go for another 30 years or so. So with this, I think this year we had about 140 lane miles of roads that we treated. And it's a lot less expensive way to do things rather than let them crumble and spend 10 times the money to reconstruct them. So some of the projects we have out here in the North Valleys. One of the ones, Buck Drive, this one we actually planned on doing this year, but we went back and we had some redesigns that we did for this project. So we're just kind of like dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So this is a short project, but people that drive this one know how much of a headache it can be. So we're putting a new signal at Buck Drive and North Hills Boulevard, and we're widening Buck Drive from Lemon Drive to North Hills Boulevard. There's also going to be some access changes because there are some businesses here that we know need trucks to get in and out. So this is going to be a small but impactful project. This is probably the first one we're going to start on in the spring up here in the North Valleys. And one of the reasons that we think it's important to get this one done is because once this one's done, NDOT's probably going to be starting on phase 2 of their project. So people will probably try to find alternate ways to get around. So this one, by expanding capacity, could be an alternate route that people will take so they can avoid the construction on 395. Military road capacity and safety. I know this is a high priority for you, Councilwoman Eater, and this one we're going to be starting in the summertime. We're going to be widening this from the 2 lanes right now to 4 lanes with a center turn lane. We're going to go from, let's see, it's Lemon Drive to Lear Boulevard, so you guys can know how far this project is going. There's going to be a lot of bicycle and pedestrian improvements. You can see on that cross section right there. You got the 10-inch or 10-foot multi-use path. You've also got the sidewalks and buffers to provide that extra protection for people if they're walking and biking. We know this is it's a unique area because there's so many residents and there's also so many warehouses. So you've got different types of vehicles that are traveling on here, but it's a neighborhood, so people like to walk and ride their bikes. So we're also be making some drainage improvements and also modifying some intersections. Lemon Drive traffic improvements and resiliency project. This one, I think we're at 90% design right now. Later next summer is probably when we'll break ground on this one, really to bring that roadway up to above the floodplain going around Swan Lake. There'll be some changes. We'll have some catch basins for water to prevent flooding as well. There'll be some changes to people getting to their neighborhoods over there to the east of Lemon Drive, but there's also going to be a multi-use path off the roadway, kind of like you see on parts of McCarran Boulevard, parts of Veterans Parkway. So it'll be separate from the roadway itself. So this will also improve transportation for not just vehicles, but people that are riding their bikes or walking, maybe even riding their horses out there. So we'll see. Now this one, we did get a $25 million raise grant for, so that's paying for about half of it. The other half comes from fuel taxes. Hopefully over the last couple of years since we got this grant, the inflation hasn't affected the bottom line of that price too much. So we'll see. One of the nice things about this, we know with military construction going on and Lemon happening, they're far enough away that we don't think that it's going to be causing conflicts by having the construction happening at the same time. The US 395 and Virginia Street North Valleys project. So this is the next phase for NDOT. This is after they get done with this first phase that goes up to Golden Valley. They're going to widen the highway all the way up to Stead. As it pertains to RTC, they're going to be making some improvements on North Virginia Street. Bus stops, pedestrian flashing beacons, a multi-use path, so that people will have that ability to walk and bike along there. We know there's a lot of pedestrian crashes that happen right there by the Bonanza. So we're hoping that this project, not only will it add capacity to 395, but it'll also help people that are traveling on Virginia Street between McCarran Boulevard and Panther Drive. The Stead signal improvements. So this is also set to happen later next summer. So this is going to be from North Virginia Street to Lear Boulevard, installing fiber optics. It's what we call ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems, where the lights will be connected with fiber so that they can kind of communicate with each other when there's heavier traffic or less traffic, try to keep things flowing. That's one of the things that we don't really think about that much while we're driving is the traffic signals. But when there's, maybe if you're on an area where there's not enough capacity and there's a lot of traffic, the traffic signals actually make a really big difference on getting people through. So that's some of the enhancements we're making out here. Also, the left turn safety improvements at Lear Boulevard and traffic signal equipment upgrades. So a lot of stuff. It's not a huge project, but another one that's going to be very impactful out here. Up in 2027, we'll have the Moya Boulevard capacity. So this is going to go from Red Rock Road to Echo Avenue, and it'll add an additional lane in each direction. So it'll be a 4-lane road instead of 2 lanes. I know that most areas out there don't have sidewalks right now, so we will be putting in some sidewalks and multi-use path for better walkability, bikeability, safety when it comes to people that want to walk and bike out there. And then also 2027 at the earliest is when we're looking at North Valley's North Virginia Street capacity. So once NDOT is done with phase 2 of the 395 project, that's when we'll start on this project. And we're going to widen Virginia Street from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, from Panther all the way out to Stead Boulevard. So it's a pretty big project. It's going to make a big difference. We know that as much as it's growing out here, you need more than one route. 395 isn't going to cut it. So adding more capacity to Virginia Street as well will just make it that much easier for people to get to and from their homes out here. It'll also have some pedestrian and transit stop improvements and create a safer, wider area. There are some areas that we're looking at that will make it safer for people to cross the street, crosswalks, pedestrian flashing beacons, things like that. So this is going to be one of those ones that also, it's going to be a heavy lift. It's a long and a lot of construction work. So, but once it's done, we think that it's going to have a really positive impact for the people who live out here. Current studies. So I show this at every neighborhood advisory board meeting I go to because it really affects anyone that travels the I-80 corridor between Sparks and Trick. So we've got 2 studies that are wrapping up right now. One of them is a connection that will connect USA Parkway to Spanish Springs. Long term, what we'd like to do is also connect Spanish Springs to Lemon Valley. So that will allow another path for people that live out here, that work out at Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. That could be another route for people to go. The main focus of this is to try to take cars off Interstate 80. We know that NDOT's going to widen it. We also know that construction is going to be a real headache for people that are going out there. In a perfect world, we can get everything happening on this road. Once this study comes out, once we have permission from the BLM for an easement, and once we come up with the funding, in a perfect world, if we could build this road before they start that widening project, that would be ideal because then people will have an alternate route and avoid the construction on I-80. We do have the first draft of that study, and we're going to be giving, we're going to have a meeting on a Red Hot Golf Course for the Spanish Springs residents in December to let them know what the preferred route is and how it could impact them. Another one that we're wrapping up right now is our commuter rail study. This one is going to be very expensive if we're able to go through with it. We would have to use Union Pacific Rail and then also build some additional rail in some areas. Doing rail is actually pretty tricky because you got to not only have the stations at Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, but also one in Reno and Sparks. So you got to find the property to do that. You also have to find a turnaround area and a rail yard where you can park the trains when they're not operating. So we're going through all that right now. I think what we're finding so far preliminary is maybe around 5,000 people per day could be taking the train. That's 5,000 people that aren't driving on Interstate 80. So we've had board members that have talked about how these are both necessary. You take cars onto that new road, the Northeast Connector is what we're calling it. Then you take people and put them on the train That's going to clear up a lot of that congestion that we're seeing on Interstate 80 on a daily basis out there. Then it's even worse when there's a storm or a crash. So these are things that we're really focusing on, and we're hoping to have some answers here in the next couple of weeks. When it comes to our budget revenues, we get about $290 million for fiscal year 26. You can see the biggest chunk of that comes from fuel tax. The next comes from federal funding. So we've got formula funding that we get. We also have discretionary grants that we apply for. The grant that I just mentioned about our buses, that was a discretionary one that we applied for, and we were fortunate enough to be successful on that. So you can see the different parts of the pie where our income comes from. Sales tax. Sales tax goes towards our transit system. Regional road impact fees, that's another important one. It's not a huge sliver, but you can see $8.5 million. Those are ones that the developers pay into the system. So every unit they pay roughly around $5,000. If it's an apartment complex they're building, they pay about $3,500 per apartment unit. So that's money that we can put into a bucket, and then we can make capacity improvements in areas where it's impacted from the development. So one of the examples from that is Sky Vista, which we did just a couple of years ago, and that we didn't have to use any of our taxpayer dollars to make those improvements. Expenses. You can see the biggest expense we have is capacity. And you probably noticed almost all the projects that I talked about here are capacity projects. And if you look at our entire region, I don't think there's any area in Reno and Sparks that has more capacity issues than North Valley. So we've got a lot of projects, the ones that I mentioned, and then also long-term ones that we haven't put into our 5-year plan yet. So there's a lot of capacity projects. You can see $125 million just in that alone. Then the next one, about $54 million for our multimodal projects, preservation. So, just some of those projects for keeping our good roads good, maybe rehabilitation jobs in some parts of town. Paratransit ride capital, paratransit capital, ride operating. Those are all our bus system. So that's where a big chunk of our funding goes. You can see our salaries. We're a small staff, about 75 employees. So our labor is kind of opposite of most businesses and most government agencies. Labor is actually one of our lowest amounts that we pay. Usually labor is your most expensive, as you would know from working at the city, firefighters, police officers, staff. That takes up a lot of your funds. It takes up 1.6% of our funding. So we can be a little bit more versatile in how we spend our money on projects because of that. And then we also do have a little bit of debt. I think that debt it goes back to when we built Veterans Parkway. So we're paying about $23 million on that. This is a slide that just kind of puts it in perspective. Every time you go and you put gas in your tank, you realize it's like, man, this is a lot of money I'm spending. And we do have the highest fuel tax in the state because we index it to keep up with inflation as well as we can. That averages out. RTC's share of fuel tax is about $195 per vehicle per year. So when you put it in perspective, what you're paying for sewer, water, power, property tax, and auto insurance is actually a lot smaller. And I like to tell people that it's also one of the best taxes we have because you know where that tax is going and what it's used for. So this is just kind of a comparison to some of the other fees and taxes that we also pay. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Paul. If there's questions from board members, please just raise your hand and state your name for the record before you speak.
Yeah, John White for the record. The work with Union Pacific at Silver Lake instead to put an island in there. That's entirely Reno. I thought RTC Reno and the Union Pacific were all going to work on that site, and I thought it'd be halfway done by now. But nothing's happening at all. Do you have any idea of the timeline on that?
Is that the crosses Virginia?
Yeah, where the McDonald's and the other strip mall and then the railroad tracks and the school buses, and you have like 75 feet from Stead Boulevard, and you're stopping if there's a school bus there. It's a big mess.
I don't know if that's one of our projects.
Well, all three entities were supposed to be involved and made it a complex, but over a year ago, they talked about that. I haven't seen anything happen on that. I just want to know. All right.
What I do know is with that North Virginia and North Alleys project, we are going to, there is a railroad crossing there, which is going to require us to get some right of way from them in order to widen it. So that's the only rail thing that I know about out here.
I'll check with our, Reno about that. So these buses are all diesel electric, just like the trains then, huh?
I'm not sure how the trains run, but
Yeah, they're a gigantic diesel engine that charges an electric motor.
okay.
That's how they can get them going. And it takes them a while to go fast, but the electric trains aren't run by overhead lines or anything like that.
No,
No, they're diesel electric. I'm sure it's way more sophisticated with your buses. Have they ever looked at other sources of fuel? I know they had Motor Week was talking like in Connecticut or someplace. Somebody was generating, propane was very popular for some reason in that area. And they're using in buses, school buses, all kinds of, commercial and general service vehicles are using propane.
yeah, with our smaller cutaway buses for Flex Ride and our paratransit access, those ones we use compressed natural gas to fuel those. So the ones that I pointed out, the electric ones those are going to go away. It hasn't really worked out the way we hoped that they would. So almost our entire fleet of 40-foot buses are going to be hybrid diesel, with the exception of those 8 hydrogen fuel cell buses.
All right. And the free youth rides, say, I guess it's a good idea. If the bus is going someplace anyway, I guess they don't add that much to the cost of the bus itself. So that's why you're doing that. And you don't want to collect fares from them in that sense, but it's going anyway, so why not get on it?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it serves multiple purposes. One of them is when younger people start riding buses and get comfortable with it, chances are they might keep using it once they get older, and then they start paying for it. That's not why and it's not because we want them to pay for it eventually, but we want to build our ridership. Another thing is that, like you mentioned, when we're operating a bus, it costs us the exact same amount of money, no matter how many people are on it, whether it's 1 or whether it's 30.
Yeah.
So, and then just the partnership with the school district, opening up the doors for some of these students that have opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. So,
Well, when I was on the Citizen Advisory Committee back in the 90s, it seemed like every meeting they're cutting back their actual service. Some places like bus would be going down to Galena, and it would only have one person at 6 o'clock at night, so we're just going to let that person find their own way. Are they still cutting back? I'm surprised at anything running except the Virginia Street and Stead Boulevard. Everything else, they keep cutting back all the time.
so right now we're going through a process that we do every 3 to 5 years. We used to call it our transit optimization plan strategies. Now we're calling it Move More with RTC. And that's where we look holistically at our entire fleet, not just our buses, but also our paratransit and our Flex Ride, our van pool program, our senior programs, where we look at everything transit related. And we look at how we can improve things, how we can make things more efficient, get more bang for our buck while serving more customers. So that's something that we're going through right now. And I think that should be completed by the end of next year. And then we might see some route changes and things like that. One thing that we have seen so far preliminarily is where most of our riders are. And what we're seeing in terms of growth, university, we're seeing the most growth ridership, and then also the Sparks industrial area. We're seeing a lot of ridership there because a lot of people will take the bus to work in the mornings and the evenings. And from what I've been told is you get on one of those buses and it's pretty packed on those buses when you're going out to.
So how many riders do you need then to make sure you're going to maintain maybe certain services to a certain area?
I'm not sure if there's a fixed number on it, but it has to make sense. We don't have any buses that go out to Spanish Springs.
Yeah.
We're not going to drive out there, pick up one person and then bring them back. That's why we've got Flex Ride out there. So it's really just, where does it make sense? There have been some people that have asked us, why don't you just provide free transit for everybody? Why is it just university and grade school students that get to ride for free? And why can't seniors ride for free? So one of the reasons for that is fares do contribute to our bottom line. It's about $5 million per year. That's about $5 million per route. So if we did that, we would have to eliminate one entire route in order to provide free transportation And then we're affecting people that actually use it and that are paying for it right now.
Well, at the time, routes 2 and 3 are the ones going up and down Virginia Street to Manwood Mall, downtown above. They were paying for themselves and more. The Stead line was running like 50% paying for itself. And everything else was sort of like being subsidized. Is it still along those lines, financing?
Yeah, we don't make money when it comes to operating our buses. So that's why we have our sales tax and federal funding to go towards it. And then the fares is a little bit.
Thank you, John. Jared?
Jared Saleh for the record, do you anticipate being able to show a bit more detail about the Buck Drive project as it gets closer? Or can you tell us, in previous meetings, we've asked the improvements that could happen as part of this at the corner of Lemon Drive and Buck. Do you see an opportunity for some more details to be shared about how that will look?
Yeah, with that one nearing final design, we should be getting the final details on all that. And next time I come out here, that should be ready to go. Depending on when I come out here, it might even be under construction. But yeah, I'd gladly show you more details on what we're specifically doing out there.
And then one other question, you had any chance to give us an update on Pyramid Highway Connector with a focus on I-80, and is Pyramid Highway, as far as additional phases that will bring it to par? Is that, as I look at the 2050 plan, it stretches, of course, but is that something that's going to be moving in the next phase in the next year or two?
And that's what you're talking about, the one that Disc Drive cutting across to Par Boulevard?
Yep.
It won't be in the next year or two. One of the things with that is we're taking another look at that. We know what we have to do. We have to figure out what the next priority of those phases. There's 6 phases on that pyramid project. So we're looking at what we need to prioritize next and what we can pay for. So in some of those, I know that one's one of the most expensive ones because it would also provide a road that goes on the ridge top from like the intersection of Highland Ranch over to where Disc Drive would connect. There's also a lot of right-of-way purchase that goes along with that. So that's one of the most expensive phases. So I'm not sure where we're at right now and which one we're doing next. It looks like the intersection of Highland Ranch, Sparks Boulevard, Pyramid Highway might be the next phase, but that's something that we're working out details on right now.
Would you be available for questions after the meeting's over, or are you?
Sure.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Go ahead.
Larissa Bean for the record. I just like to start to say that I really appreciate your update, and I like a lot of the things, like the commuter stuff that you guys are considering, and then the youth and senior rides. Regarding the senior ride taxi bucks, is that a new program?
We've had it for a while. I don't know
Okay.
how long, but since I've been here, we've been using it.
Okay, like, do a lot of people know about it?
More and more.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just like if I, like the hospitals and some of those, places that a lot of seniors have to rely on public transit to get to.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have considered like talking with case managers and things like that to help them coordinate people that can afford it to help get them there.
Yes.
It's a struggle.
And it's kind of been snowballing. So
Okay.
I spoke to a senior group today, and probably about a third of them are part of that program already. And then afterwards, somebody asked me if I could come out and talk to their retirement community about it. So we're finding ways where we can get out and talk to the people that need to know. So it's starting to catch on with a lot of people.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Terrence.
For the record, I was just kind of curious, how many of the electric buses are you guys phasing out?
I think we've got, it might be 19. I think it's a 1-to-1 ratio that we're replacing.
Gotcha.
At one point, the electric buses were about a third of our entire fleet. We had about 60, 68, somewhere between 60 and 70 buses that were operating. And I think at one point we had like 22 electric buses. So yeah, we're getting away from those. It just, it's been too inefficient for us to try to keep repairing them and keep them on the roads and charge them overnight and things like that.
Sure. And then you said you're bringing in 8 of the hydrogen fuel buses. What's the reason for bringing those in compared to the diesel electrics? I mean, I know those are great engines and I know they work great. It's obviously the majority of your fleet. What's the reason for bringing in 8 new type of fuel buses? Is it just for testing in general or?
No, I think that everyone likes the idea of 100% clean vehicles.
Yeah.
And with the hydrogen vehicles, they're electric vehicles, but the hydrogen charges them as they're driving instead of having to charge them overnight. And they get better range, roughly 300 miles. So that was one of the reasons we're thinking, okay, we can see about this. Let's get some buses. Let's see how they work. We also got 2 grants to purchase all 8 of those buses, 2 different grants, and then to build our facility too, our fueling facility. We also, part of that grant, paid for virtual training for our drivers and our mechanics. So a big part of it was, I don't think we would have bought those hydrogen buses if we didn't get the federal funding to do it.
Perfect. And so the 8 is pretty much just the testing to see if it actually and all that.
It could be a start.
Yeah.
We could purchase more in the future. We're going to see how they do. And if they turn out like the electric ones, then we'll get more hybrids.
Cool.
Or
And
whatever the next technology is.
Yeah. And then you said for the North Virginia, the expansion, that's starting after the NDOT finishes the 395 phase 2. Right. So once that's all complete, then you guys will start on North Virginia.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to clog up both of those routes.
That was my initial heart stopper. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Kelsey, do you have any questions before we move online?
I do have some questions. Last time at a previous meeting, you mentioned the idea of using access vehicles or to supplement flex ride during slow hours. Is that something that's still being taken into consideration?
Yeah, I think we're actually doing that already. And we're not going to do it at the expense of our access customers. But if let's say somebody takes an access customer comes out here to Stead,
Mhm.
and that van is going to go back to Reno. If there's somebody that wants to use a flex ride out here, it just makes more sense to use that vehicle rather than bring another vehicle from in town to bring out here. So it's just, we call it intermingling.
Mhm.
And I think that it's just a better way to use our buses in the locations where they're already at.
Okay, because if somebody's coming from up here going south and they're using access, they wouldn't be that's an alternative, right? Because they can't use the fixed route. And so if somebody were using FlexRide, it wouldn't be going south, they'd be using the fixed route. And so I have concern. And so how will you guarantee that ADA riders won't lose capacity, priority, or service quality? Because it's already kind of a difficult thing to navigate for a lot of people.
With access, those are scheduled. So you
yeah.
have to schedule those 24 hours in advance. So if that schedule has already been completed and somebody needs a flex ride, which is on demand,
Mhm.
then you're not actually affecting the customers. If it's scheduled, it's scheduled.
Gotcha. So, because some people are riding the bus for like 2 hours, right? And if there are people that have accidents on the bus, they have behaviors on the bus, and so that just kind of adds to that time frame, right? And so I think that that's something that I really want you guys to take into consideration, because riding the access bus, because they get somebody to support them during that if they need, right? It's really difficult. And so just something to take into consideration. I also had another question. And maybe I missed it, but the presentation mentions protected bike facilities in other neighborhoods, but none in Ward 4. Were there any that were going to be like the bike lanes and things like in Ward 4?
Was that for the neighborhood network plans?
Yes.
Yes. So let me take you back to that map.
Okay.
So one of them is in Ward 4 that we're studying right now.
Okay.
Panther Valley.
Okay.
And then they ranked. I wish that they would change this map, by the way, because the numbers should be the numbers in order that we're doing it, right? So on this map, the first one we did was number 9, and the second one we did is number 7.
And then you're going
We should just renumber those, right?
Yeah.
So
and the next one you're going to be doing 2, correct?
yes, so 10 and 2. So 10 is like Meadowood Mall area up to Hidden Valley. 2 is Panther Valley and Sun Valley. And number one up there is the bulk of the North Valleys.
Mhm.
I don't know where that one ranks. Actually, it might be on there. No, it's not ranked on there.
Okay, that was my next question. What about when you anticipate that to be, I guess, done?
Yeah, next time I come out here, I will, hopefully I can get him to change his maps that I know.
Okay,
I gave a presentation out at Spanish Springs a few weeks ago, and I looked it up before I went out there. That one's about 3 years down the road. I think 28 is when they're doing Spanish Springs. And it's just the ranking system, like where we can do things, where they score highest, I guess. So we'll find out.
and then, I was looking at the figures and, let's see, is RTC planning to recommend adjustments to the regional road impact fee to ensure that developer contributions better reflect the actual infrastructure costs associated with new growth? So, I saw that they contribute 2.9%. And that seems pretty low. And I was looking at figures around the country, and in some places, developers are paying like 13%. And then the rest is falling, for the gas tax is what, 40.9% of that pie chart. And so are you guys reconsidering the regional road impact fee to make growth more of its fair share towards developers?
We adjust it, I think, annually. In fact, our board just approved an adjustment to it. Right now, I think it's broken up into two areas, north of I-80, south of I-80. North of I-80, they're paying currently, I think, 5,200. Once it all gets approved, I think it's going to go up to around 5,500 per unit. So, and that money all stays up north of I-80. Down south of I-80, I think it's a little bit lower. I think it's closer to $5,100 right now, and that's going to go up to around 53, if I remember right, for all the development happening down there. When we do this, we're not actually looking at it as a percentage. It's a dollar figure. And it just happens that that's how much of our pie chart it is 2.9%.
Gotcha, okay. And when you say like 5,300?
Something like that. Right now, I think it's like 5,200.
Okay.
But that's being adjusted. It just has to go through the proper channels. Things got complicated because the legislature passed a business impact statement. So if you have an impact fee, you have to go through this longer process now. That took place October 1st.
Mhm.
It's past October 1st, and now we have to go through all these different channels before we can get it all approved. So it takes longer.
Okay, and then I think that's everything for me. Is there like a benchmark for ridership, that'll trigger converting flex ride zones into real fixed route, bus services?
Like I said, we're looking at all options right now. We have heard from a lot of people in Sparks in particular, because I think the last time we did this, we reduced routes over in that area and then expanded the flex ride zone. So there is talk of possibly expanding routes in that area. I know here we've got one route. Is it Route 5?
7.
7. Route 7 that comes out here, and then it takes a loop back, but it only hits certain areas. So that's why flex ride is a nice complement for that.
Okay,
But yeah, end of next year, we should have a better idea of what kind of changes we'll be making.
okay, thank you. That's everything from.
Thank you. We do have some online members who have questions. Kelly, I know you have your hand up.
Hi, Kelly Orr for the record. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was very thorough. I do have some questions regarding the walkways and access through, with bicycles and horses and stuff like that. Did you have I didn't hear if you had a set date or time when that's going to actually start happening in the Lemon Valley area?
We don't have a specific date yet. We still have to take that out to bid. But we're kind of targeting end of summer, early fall to start that project, the Lemon Drive project.
Okay. I just sit on the Citizens Advisory Board for RTC multimodality, and that hasn't been talked about ever So that was news to me. But thank you so much for the presentation. I think everything else, I would just like to ask RTC to do a rail. Also, if they're doing one, South Meadows, USA Parkway, that they would configure one in along the hopes of having one, the pyramid connector, and eventually out here, since all these warehouses are aligning their businesses that way anyway. That getting on the planning for more rail would be amazing. So thank you so much.
One thing I will point out is the legislature did pass a bill that creates the Regional Rail Working Group. So certain communities, basically Reno, actually, I think it covers the entire state. We're going to study the feasibility of light rail in some of our metropolitan areas. And when we were talking about this, one of the areas that could benefit the most would be the North Valleys. If we could use existing rail line that already comes out here and put a light rail on, that's something that the study hasn't begun yet. The working group hasn't been devised yet, but we are going to have a member of RTC that's part of that group to work on it.
I can't wait for that Citizens Advisory Board or NAB, because I'm on that as someone who grew up in Japan. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly. Rebecca Flannery, see your hand up also.
Rebecca Flannery for the record. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I love it when you guys come out and give us updates. Quick question though is when you were talking about the small little things you can do, like the sidewalks and the beacons and the lines and all that stuff that's more cost efficient. Is there any plans for Stead Boulevard to Military Road on Lear? I feel like that road is wide enough to have more lanes, but there's like no lines painted. So is there any plans to maybe get out there and adjust that little stretch of road a little bit?
When it comes to sidewalks, crosswalks, bike lanes, things like that?
More like the road's pretty wide. I would think that each direction could have 2 lanes, but there's no lines painted. So it's just an extremely wide roadway. So I didn't know if you guys had any plans to maybe come out there and, put some lines so it's a 2-lane each direction instead of one very extremely wide lane.
And I think Lear is the one that dead ends, right?
It's between Stead and Military.
So that is one of the roads that we have. We are planning on extending that one. When we go and we look at these roads, we also look at all aspects of it. So that could include accessibility improvements, sidewalks, bike lanes, things like that. And then also when we get out here and we start studying the neighborhood network plans, but we could also see some improvements there as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca. Everyone's had one round. More questions from board members?
Councilmember Eager.
Councilmember Eager for the record. I don't really have questions so much as just to say thank you for coming out and giving this presentation, and to board member Orr's comments about the rail system. I also really support that. I went down to this last legislative session and testified in support of that group coming together to work on the feasibility of that system. So I think that would just be a tremendous help for us, particularly in the North Valleys where we have some geography limiting how wide we can make the freeways with Golden Valley and the Union Pacific Rail that's there and NV Energy power line. We're kind of like, it's more difficult to widen more than one more lane each way. So hoping that can help us out, and just really looking forward to the improvements and waiting for them to be over because we've had so much construction out here. We're really kind of behind on this, but looking forward to having the increased capacity on our roads and the safer bike lanes also.
Yeah. And I don't think there's any community in Reno that needs it more than out here.
Yeah.
With the growth and the capacity needs and things like that. So
Yeah.
that's why we've got so many projects coming up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to give public comment on this item?
I have a question. My name is Marisa Haynes. And I didn't quite catch, when are you going to work on those pedestrian sidewalks in the Bonanza area? Because I realize this is very dangerous right now. There's a lot of people walking there.
Yeah, that one is part of NDOT's phase two of the 395 widening. And that part of the project will actually happen later. So they're gonna start widening. And then I think once they're done with that is when they'll do the improvements on North Virginia Street. Then when they're done with that, we're gonna come in and we're gonna make the road wider from Panther all the way to Stag and make all those improvements. We've got 2027 as a tentative timeline for that North Virginia North Valleys project. I think it might be more like 2028. It's kind of a moving target because it all depends on when NDOT is done with their project.
And the second question is, have you on concrete plans in how to improve the bus stops? So that they are more passenger friendly?
Yeah, every year we've got what we call the bus stop improvement program. And we do roughly 18 to 20 bus stops every year. Sometimes you'll see there'll be just a sign, RTC's bus stop sign, no bench, no concrete, it's just dirt. We'll go in and we'll put in a concrete pad and we'll put in a bench. Sometimes we'll have an area where there's, for instance, over on Mayan and McCarran, there wasn't a bench. So people were taking shopping carts, flipping them on their sides and using those as benches as they waited for the bus. So we improved that. We put a bench and we put a concrete pad down. I don't know how they prioritize those, but we do around 18 to 20 every year. And there's a lot of them that we still have to work on over the next several years.
Yes, on the route number 7, there's quite a few that can be.
Well, and on our Route 7, for sure, when we do that North Virginia North Valleys project, that one will include a lot of improvements to the bus stops there.
Thank you. Can you state your name for the record one more time?
Marisa Haynes.
Thank you. Is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment on this item? If you'd like to give public comment on Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window. I don't see anyone on Zoom, so if there's no one more questions, that will wrap up this item.
Thanks again for having me. Should I just leave that up?
Yeah.
It's one of,
Okay.
I thought it was for diamonds.
Now, members, that wraps up our final business item in item T, which is for board, commission, committee member reports and announcements. Are there any reports or announcements from the board members in person or online? Seeing none, we will move on to item E for future agenda items. Are there any board members who'd like to suggest future agenda items? I do want to note for the board that we do have NDOT planned to come for our December work format meeting. So if you're interested in talking to NDOT, mark that date, make sure you're here. And so not seeing any other board members for future agenda items, we'll move on to item F. Item F1 is our final public comment period. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to give final public comment on today's meeting? Seeing none, is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment on today's meeting? If you'd like to give public comment on Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Seeing no one would like to give final public comment, we can now move on to item G, which is for adjournment. Is there a motion?
John White moves that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Kelly Orr, second.
John White made the motion, Kelly Orr made the second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. The meeting is adjourned at 7:04 p.m. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, they got that great basement.